All right, we continue the testimony of an ex-Luciferian who served Satan's plan. The organization. All right, what is the organization? What is Satan's organization? The organization is the name I chose many years ago to describe and represent Satan's complicated network of interconnected hierarchies in the physical and supernatural, which work together on many different fronts to carry out Lucifer's plan, the plan. From the little I have tried to explain so far about the plan, it is probably evident that this operation is quite large, spanning both the physical and supernatural power structures and incorporating both. Very complicated and yet well planned out and orchestrated. How I came up with the name The Organization. This plan and its working structure is the most organized system I have ever encountered. It is tight and works like a well oiled machine and has done so for many centuries. Because it is so well organized, and because all those who are part of it work like one body with one mind for one mission, never stopping, I found no better way to describe it than to call it the organization. It is an entity in and of itself. I note for more detail on what led to my decision to come up with the name the organization. See explaining my background as a former illuminist. I'm going to do that in another video. The next video after this one will probably be what the plan actually is. Okay, but this will probably be about 5 or 6 parts to this. Okay. With that in mind, one body with one mind for one mission. The example of the human body is another very good way to describe the organization. Take some time to consider the proficient design of the human body with all its complexities, with its involuntary and semi involuntary systems that are created to work independently of each other, yet in unison towards a common objective, primarily to function at the most optimal level and keep the body alive. The command central that controls all the body's functions, both the involuntary, unconscious, and voluntary, consciously willed systems in activity, is the central nervous system, the brain and spinal column. The living and working body that I call the organization has many systems and divisions which have been created to work independently of each other, yet in unison, towards common objectives as the head controls and directs. The head of the organization is Lucifer, Satan. Functioning as the organization's central nervous system, brain, and spinal column is Lucifer and his spiritual hierarchy of the descended, fallen angels. Many of them call themselves ascended masters, but they are nothing more than descended fallen angels, as well as hybrids and some humans who work in the supernatural, as well as here on this physical earth to carry out Lucifer's plan. In addition, this organization has millions of people working for the same cause with varying degrees of awareness of that cause. They come from all age groups, all walks of life, all religions, all nationalities, from all governments and all divisions of military. Most of these people are kept in the dark as to the true nature of the plan and of the true identity of the authors of it, Satan and his fallen angels. Serving in the organization. In the past, the best service to the plan were those who believed they were working for a benevolent cause. However, there has been a shift over the last few years as the move of the plan has successfully created a society with an ever growing number of narcissistic type people. This type can be easily lured and motivated to serve the organization, consciously or unconsciously, by appealing to their carnal, prideful, self centered appetites. For every human component in the organization working for the plan, there are at least several fallen angels from the supernatural overlooking that human, directing their moves throughout their entire life. Note This is also true of people who are unknowingly serving the plan. Keep in mind that keep in mind that professing to be a Christian and actually being one are two very different things. There are many self proclaiming Christians who have fallen for the end time deception and are now unknowingly yoked to the demonic, being occupied with furthering Lucifer's plan, all the while believing they are partnering with angels and serving God. On the political scene, a famous political figure is just a person placed in a position of power to be used as a means to manipulate or control the masses. Most of today's leaders in world governments are puppets and pawns. They, like the rest of the servers, have varying degrees of awareness of the plan. The true directors of the plan are mostly unknown names to the general public, who work to influence the people who are in positions of power. In this organization, if someone in power chooses their own agenda over that of the plan, they are removed and replaced by one who will serve the higher will. What is referred to as the higher will is actually the will of Lucifer, who is Satan. I have two examples of this, actually three if I include my mother. Dag Hammarskjöld, I apologize if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Dag Hammarskjöld, September 18, 1961. The second Secretary General of the United States, Dag Hammarskjöld, was known for his peacekeeping missions in the Congo. He died when the United Nations DC 6 B carrying him crashed in the Rhodesian bushland. My personal testimony or knowledge in regards to Hammarskjöld's demise comes from my mother and her connections. My mother knew something was going on before the media reported Hammarskjöld's death. When she questioned the purpose of his death, she was told that Mr. Hammarskjöld's usefulness had run out. Within the group, it was known that Dag Hammarskjöld was a valuable political figure who unselfishly served what he knew as a plan to bring world peace. It is my doubt that he was ever aware of the true identities of those who authored the plan, or that their reason for wanting the nations united is not for peace, but for a false peace, which will be just the start of all that Lucifer had for the world and its populace. Second example, President John F. Kennedy, a former associate of mine who, among other accomplishments, designed the mission guidance systems, was in his younger years a military advisor to President Kennedy during the Bay of Pigs invasion and the Cuban Missile Crisis. It is the word of my associate that the president rejected the U.S. military directive in favor of his own agenda, which not only cost the United States dearly in the Soviet negotiations, but also put the U.S. in a compromised military disadvantage. I think the truth is that JFK was seen as a threat to the plan for the New World Order. 3, my mother's place in the organization. One of the reasons the organization works so well is that they work in compartments where all energies are concentrated on specific jobs. Everyone knows the success of the whole requires the unified efforts of many. All of the workers get a piece of the picture puzzle. Everything is on a need-to-know basis, and when one needs to know something for their particular task, they are given only the minimal knowledge required to complete their assignment. Also, the more one is trusted, the more of the whole picture they are shown. Most of the people who serve on the political scene know only their department and those of that department. The identities of those members are kept within that department. Not even blood relatives know what each other's rank or mission is unless they happen to be in the same department. Even then, if something doesn't involve a particular family member, it is kept secret from that family member. So it was with my mother. She knew of some of our ancestors and family members who lived their lives in allegiance to the plan, but of their specific roles, she knew very little. What I knew of my mother's involvement was that she was an educator and a recruiter, and that she worked directly with the spiritual hierarchy on the political scene. She was one of the few humans who worked alongside Satan's inner circle. She knew who the key players were in world politics and the world's religions. She knew who the dedicated servers to the plan were and who the pawns were. Setting up the United Nations was one of those behind the scenes projects she worked on, and then continued through the years to oversee certain political agendas of the plan that were being implemented through the United Nations. Before my mother died in 1971 at the age of 45, she came to me with a frightened and worried look on her face. She said that she had something she wanted to tell me and that she would be in trouble for telling me. She told me that the plan's sole purpose for forming the United Nations was to usher in their Christ, anointed one, and their one world government. I was a bit surprised that she would tell me something that was basic knowledge at that time to servers in our division. She then emphasized the importance of my remembering what she had told me. For many years, I thought that my mother had died believing that the plan was God's plan, that the masters of wisdom were of God, and that we were the chosen elite Christians who were helping to make the world ready for the rule of God's Christ, anointed one. This is the same attitude that many charismatic Christians have who have fallen for Satan's end time deception, and who believe in and promote the many forms of dominionism, kingdom building, and the lesser known sheep nations. I believed those also until many years after my mother's death, when I was taken through my final initiation, in which I was introduced to the highest being of the plan, whom I was told was the most illumined of all. Upon this meeting, my Luciferic teachings began, and it was revealed to me who the masters of wisdom really are and the true purpose of the plan. I was shown that Satanists are our brothers, equal brothers to those serving the plan, and more enlightened than the Christian servers, who I was told were still under a degree of deception, not being advanced enough to know the truth. It was then up to me to accept the truth and choose to gladly serve what is called the higher will, Satan's will, which the masters know and serve. I chose to leave instead, a choice that usually has dire consequences. It has been through my thinking back on all this that I have come to believe that my mother did know before her death the same truth that I was shown years later. I think she wanted to tell me who the masters and the leaders of the plan really were, but couldn't because she had reason to fear for the lives of her children. It has occurred to me that my mother gave me the clues when she came to me many years before to tell me something I already knew, the purpose of the United Nations. The first clue was that she was afraid and worried, not enthusiastic like she ordinarily was whenever she spoke of the masters and the plan. The second clue was when she put special emphasis on the word their. She spoke of their Christ and their world, one world government, rather than the Christ and the one world government, which was the way servers in the plan usually phrased things. Thinking back, my mother's terminology seems to indicate that she, in a covert way, was trying to let me know that she was no longer associating herself with the plan and the organization. Third, all communication with her physical contacts at that time ceased. I don't know whether it was she who broke off communication or if communication was broken by her contacts. These things have led me to believe that my mother loved me enough to not endanger my life by telling me the truth at that time, and that she was smart enough to leave me the clues I would need long after she was gone. All right, part 3 will be the plan. What is it?